Hello, my name is Kayla Medeiros, and I'm going to be discussing Nigeria and the aspects of doing business there. Today, I'm going to be touching on Nigeria's place on the Corruption Index and their questionable business practices in relation to that score, the worst times to travel to Nigeria, and the socialization and gift-giving customs. So, the Corruption Index ranges from 0 to 100, with 0 being the most corrupt and 100 being the most fair, being fair. And Nigeria is standing at a score of 28, but also has an average score of 20.17, meaning it has a track record of being pretty corrupt. And I noted on the slides that while the practices listed are illegal in the US and Nigeria, they're still commonly practiced. Bribery is the main culprit for the corruption, and it is rampant through most businesses, but it's really hitting hard in the oil industry, in the judiciary process, and the police. Now, with the oil industry, major kickbacks are going to oil companies, and it's not really unheard of due to Nigeria being an oil-rich country. And the individuals in power pay royalties to officials in the judiciary and police officials for looking the other way when something comes across their desk or when they need to go out and do something. And this also ties into what's listed next, the services of summons and seizures. This meaning that officials can order the seizure of property, of information, of people, and they can summon others, to the court or to be held for questioning. And some of it may be substantial, and other times it may just be, them trying to slow down the process or what somebody can and can't do or can or can't say. And this also ties into the fact that Nigeria has a lot of corruption laws that are usually pushed to the side, or they take a long time to get put into play. Okay, so the worst times to travel to Nigeria are slightly similar to the bad days it is to travel here in America. In Nigeria, they have a day called Democracy Day, and it's usually around the end of May, and it usually falls on a Monday. And it's a day basically set aside to celebrate the enforcement of people of Nigeria finally having rights as citizens and to be able to freely elect leaders through elections and express democracy and promote democracy and democratic principles. So in a way, it's similar to the reason why we in America celebrate the 4th of July. Just kind of that, freedom to, finally be a democracy. And one of the other holidays that it's kind of not a good idea to travel is during Eid al-Adha, and it's called the Feast of Sacrifice, and it's the most important feast of the Muslim calendar. And the feast basically reenacts Ibrahim's obedience by sacrificing a cow or a ram, and in Nigeria it usually falls in October. May Day is Workers' Day. It's kind of similar to Labor Day, and it's a public holiday in many countries, including Nigeria, where workers just have a day off to, chill out, relax, be with their families, and just, have just a day to not work. And the other days that are on the other side of the slide are very similar to what we have here in America, where, it's kind of hard to travel and do business on New Year's Eve, Christmas, and Easter. Now, the only thing that's slightly different is their Easter. Like here in America, Easter starts on Good Friday and it goes all the way up to Sunday. Not many people have that Monday off. But in Nigeria, their Good Friday starts on Good Friday and it stretches all the way through Easter Monday. So that's just kind of something you should take into account when you're visiting around that time or you plan a business meeting around that time, that you should probably take that into consideration. Now, on to customs. In Nigeria, these are some of the greeting and socialization customs that go on. And during greetings, usually if you're greeting a woman, you wait for her to extend her hand first. You don't just automatically go and extend your hand, because rushing an introduction or rushing a greeting comes off as being very rude. But it's a little bit different when observant Muslims greet each other. So if you are a Muslim and you're also traveling to Nigeria or you're doing business in Nigeria, it may be similar to where observant Muslims will not shake hands with people of the opposite sex. It's just a rule, and that's just how it goes. When speaking to others, like when you're addressing someone or you're, talking to someone who you may not know very well, it's considered rude or inappropriate to call them by their first name if they have not already invited you to do so. So it's getting a little bit different now that the new generation of business leaders are coming up. It's slightly becoming more and more acceptable to call someone by their first name if they haven't invited you, and that's kind of more common around people under the age of 35. But the older crowd, the older people that you may be dealing with in Nigeria, you should definitely go by, call them by their title and then their last name, because just doing a first name, calling them by their first name isn't really acceptable. When you greet someone who is much older than you, it's out of respect that you bow your head. And that's just something that goes across all lines of, meeting someone who is older than you in that culture. Now, if you are invited to dinner or you're invited to someone's home in Nigeria, for a business meeting or just, to catch up, or, if you're doing business there and you're invited to someone's home, it's always a good idea to bring them fruit, nuts, or chocolates for the host, because, it's just, a sign of, of thanks, of goodwill. And it's very similar to when in America, if somebody invites you to their home for dinner or to talk, you bring a gift, like maybe a bottle of wine or like a paperweight, just to be nice and not come off as rude or disrespectful. Another thing that's also, a plus is if it kind of shows that you care about the person you're dealing with or that you're doing business with if you bring a gift for their kids. It means you kind of know about their personal life, that they have kids, and you go out of your way to bring their child something as well. That just shows, hey, I care about you. We can kind of have a way to talk and, be open, I care about your family, and, I'll tell you about mine if that's acceptable. When you give a gift, you should never give a gift using only your left hand. It's just a rule. You can give a gift with both hands or your right hand only, but do not ever give a gift with only your left hand. When you give a gift also, you should always wrap your gift. Always make sure your gift is wrapped. It does not really matter what you wrap it with, as long as it isn't offensive or, just, really outlandish or have like a really questionable saying on it. Make sure you have like a decently wrapped gift. It doesn't really matter what it's wrapped in. And you shouldn't be offended if your gift isn't always opened as soon as it is received. That's just, a rule. Sometimes people like to wait till the party is over and open gifts on their own at the end by themselves, because, we've all been in that situation where somebody gives you a gift and it's not really something you like, and you have to put on that happy face like you like it, but on the inside you really don't. So you shouldn't be offended if your gift isn't, they don't rip off the paper as soon as you give it to them. You should, be able to have that respect for them. Also in business meetings and, long conversations in business meetings, it's really commonplace for there to be a lot of joking going around. In this culture, jokes, not only make the meeting a little bit less terrible, it makes them jokes and humor make the experience more enjoyable, but it also kind of makes sure that it kind of lodges it in your brain, the information that's being given to you. You don't easily forget it because you're like, oh yeah, that's the joke that so-and-so told, and this happened before he told the joke, and I remember this is what he said after the joke. So it kind of makes the information that you're receiving during this meeting a little harder to forget. And that concludes my presentation. If y'all have any questions, just make sure to ask them on the forum, and I'll be sure to answer. Thank you.